A storm, a locked estate, a rule, one night only. He's the most feared man in the city, untouched, unreadable, lethal to everyone but the one under his roof. She's a broke waitress with soft eyes and a pocket full of secrets. He offers shelter. She counts cameras. He pours tea. She almost slips the drug. Glass explodes. He shields her with his body, and now she can't leave. But the real danger isn't the gunfire. It's the thing she came to steal. A hidden key, a lullaby code, a past that says she isn't random. She's the lockpick to his whole empire. If he's the one man who never takes what isn't freely given, why did she choose his house, this night, and that lie? When the truth detonates, will he claim her to save her or destroy her to save his throne? The marble floors whisper under Ilara's bare feet as she glides through shadows, each step measured against the rhythmic sweep of security cameras. Her heart pounds, but her movements remain fluid. Just another shadow among many. The grand hallway stretches before her, moonlight filtering through rain-streaked windows and painting silvery paths across the expensive carpets. 3 steps, pause, 2 steps, duck. The pattern of surveillance had revealed itself during dinner when she'd watched the subtle shifts in the guards' attention. Now she moves through their blind spots like water through stones, using the ornate furniture as cover. Her fingers brush against the micro-recorder in her pocket, its presence both a comfort and a burden. The weight of her sister's medical bills presses heavier than any surveillance system. Sarah's face, pale against hospital sheets, flashes in her mind. She pushes the image away. Focus, count, move. The library doors loom ahead, dark wood carved with intricate patterns that speak of old money and older secrets. Ilara presses her ear against the wood, listening for movement inside. Nothing but the distant drum of rain. She eases the door open just enough to slip through, holding her breath as she waits for her eyes to adjust to the deeper darkness. The room smells of leather and paper, wealth wrapped in tradition. Bookshelves tower to the ceiling, their spines a testament to generations of power. But it's not knowledge she's after tonight. The wall safe, according to her intel, hides behind a painting of the Italian coast, a massive canvas that dominates the room's eastern wall. Ilara moves toward it, counting her steps. 15 feet of open space, no furniture to hide behind. The cameras here sweep in a 6-second pattern. She reaches the painting just as lightning flashes outside, illuminating the room in stark relief. Her fingers trace the frame's edge, searching for the mechanism that will reveal her target. The gel packet burns in her pocket, ready to capture the safe's biometric lock. I wondered how long it would take you to try. The voice freezes her in place. Valen Roth materializes from a leather armchair in the corner, his presence a physical weight in the room. He hadn't made a sound, hadn't shifted, hadn't betrayed a single breath until now. Ilara's prepared lie dies in her throat as she turns. He sits with the casual elegance of a predator, one leg crossed over the other, his fingers steepled beneath his chin. The lightning flashes again, catching the angles of his face in harsh relief. The cameras in the hall caught your reconnaissance during dinner, he continues, his voice soft but carrying easily across the space between them. You have excellent timing, professional training. She forces her hands to stay steady at her sides. Self-taught. Impressive. He uncrosses his legs but doesn't rise. The gel in your pocket, for prints, I assume, and the recorder. His lips curve slightly. Also professional grade, not the tools of an opportunistic thief caught in the rain. No, she admits, her mind racing through scenarios, calculating odds, mapping escape routes that she already knows don't exist. Not opportunistic. Who sent you? No one sent me. The truth slips out before she can stop it. I chose this job. To steal what exactly? His eyes never leave her face, reading micro-expressions she can't control. The safe contains nothing but family photos and my mother's jewelry. The real vault is elsewhere. Heat rises to her cheeks, embarrassment warring with desperation. The ledger, I was told you keep a ledger of offshore accounts, account numbers, access codes. Ah, understanding softens his features for a moment. You're after the network data. That makes more sense. He finally stands, his height filling the space between them. Who told you about it? Ilara backs up a step, her spine hitting the painting. I can't. Can't or won't. He moves closer, each step measured and deliberate. Because there are only 3 people outside this house who know that Ledger exists. One is dead, one would never risk exposure, and the third... He stops just inside her personal space, close enough that she can smell his cologne, something expensive and subtle. The third is very interested in destroying everything my family has built. The rain beats harder against the windows, matching the thunder of her pulse. I needed the money, she whispers. Just the information. I wouldn't have stolen from a man who offered you shelter. His voice carries no judgment, only curiosity. Who fed you? Protected you from the storm? Shame burns in her chest, but she lifts her chin. A man who built his fortune on other people's pain, who profits from suffering. The words taste bitter, rehearsed, someone else's script. Is that what they told you? He reaches past her, his arm brushing hers as he touches the painting's frame. A soft click, and the canvas swings away from the wall. Behind it is nothing but smooth plaster. The ledger contains evidence of human trafficking operations across 3 continents. Names, dates, bank trails. His eyes lock with hers. Evidence I've spent 5 years gathering to dismantle them. The grandfather clock in the hallway strikes 1, its deep resonance marking Alara's careful progress through the darkened house. Her bare feet make no sound on the thick carpet as she counts her steps. 15 from the guest wing, right turn at the Ming vase, 20 more to the library doors. The rain continues its assault against the windows, providing cover for any accidental sounds. The library smells of aged leather and furniture polish, wealth wrapped in tradition. Moonlight filters through rain-streaked windows, casting strange shadows across the parquet floor. Alara's fingers trail along drawer handles, testing each one with practiced pressure until... there. A slight vibration beneath her touch, almost imperceptible, but distinctly electronic. The panel feels warmer than its neighbors, suggesting active security measures beneath. A palm scanner. Of course. Her intel had mentioned biometric security, but seeing it confirms both her target's location and her current limitation. The gel in her sleeve won't be ready for hours. It needs time to set properly for a clean lift. Retreating from the library, Alara redirects to the sitting room, where warm lamplight spills into the hallway. Valen sits in a high-backed leather chair, his attention focused on leather-bound ledgers spread across the mahogany desk before him. His jacket lies draped over a nearby chair, and she notices the keycard clipped to its inner pocket, a potential backup plan if the palm print fails. I thought you might still be awake, she says softly, padding into the room. Her hands steady themselves by gripping the back of a chair. The storm. He doesn't look up immediately, but his presence fills the space. Controlled power held carefully in check. A cup of tea sits cooling at his elbow, steam rising in delicate spirals. Alara moves closer, the vial of fast-acting sedative pressing against her forearm where it's hidden in her sleeve. Just 3 drops would be enough. His eyes lift to hers, dark and unreadable. The intensity of his gaze pins her in place, and she pulls her hand back from its path toward his cup. Something in that look suggests he sees more than she intends to show. A sharp knock at the window breaks the moment. 3 quick taps, followed by 2 slower ones. A pattern. Valen rises smoothly, moving to peer through the rain-streaked glass. Beyond him, Alara catches glimpses of dark figures moving in formation, their black raincoats gleaming under security lights. Vector secure, a muffled voice calls out. Echo team rotating to east parameter. Confirmed, Valen responds, using terms that Alara commits to memory. Maintain distance on the cliff path. Visibility's poor. She watches him watch them, noting how the guards move with military precision. Their formations suggest professional training, their movements synchronized by some unspoken protocol. Each detail builds her mental map of the estate security, the timing between shifts, the coded language, the choreographed movements. When Valen turns back, his expression has shifted subtly. Why did you leave your room? Alara lets her shoulders curl inward slightly, a calculated show of vulnerability. Nightmares, she murmurs, glancing toward the storm-dark windows. The thunder, it reminds me of... She lets the sentence trail off, implying trauma she doesn't need to specify. He studies her for a long moment, his face giving away nothing. Then, come, I'll walk you back. The journey to her room passes in silence, broken only by distant thunder and the soft sound of their footsteps. Alara counts each intersection, each turn, building her mental map of the house's layout. More importantly, she catalogs the creaks in the floorboards, the spots where ancient wood might betray movement to attentive ears. Inside her room, after Valen's footsteps fade down the hallway, Alara presses her ear to the door. She listens to the house settling, distinguishing between the natural sounds of an old building and the deliberate movements of its occupants. The gel packet rests in her palm as she rolls it between her hands. warming it to maintain its moldable consistency for later use. Lightning illuminates the room in brief, harsh flashes as she lies in bed, staring at the ornate ceiling. The storm gradually moves offshore, thunder fading to distant growls that sound almost like warnings. Her mind races through calculations and contingencies, weighing risks against desperate necessity. The grandfather clock's mechanism whirs, preparing to strike two. Ilara makes her decision. The security nerve center in the West Hall presents a secondary target, one that might prove more valuable than the palm-locked drawer. She swings her legs over the side of the bed, ready to attempt a second reconnaissance, armed now with her enhanced understanding of the guard rotations and security protocols. She's learned more in these few hours than her initial intelligence suggested. The precision of the security team, the complexity of the house's defenses, the careful way Valen watches without seeming to watch. Each piece adds to a puzzle that seems increasingly dangerous and increasingly crucial to solve. Thunder rumbles one final time, like the house itself clearing its throat in warning as Ilara rises to begin her second exploration of the night. The West Hall, with its promise of security controls and potential access codes, beckons through the darkness. She flexes her fingers, checking the gel packet one last time, and moves toward the door. The grandfather clock's chime fades as Ilara moves through shadow-draped corridors. Her bare feet make no sound on the polished floors, each step placed with deliberate care. The West Hall beckons, but first she must navigate the portrait gallery, a long stretch where stern-faced patriarchs watch from gilded frames, their painted eyes seeming to track her movement. Oil paintings loom in the dim light, men in formal attire, women in pearls, all bearing the same aristocratic features she recognizes from Valen's face. Their presence makes the air feel thick, weighted with generations of power and secrets. Ilara counts her steps, timing them between the soft whir of security cameras that sweep the space in predictable arcs. 15 steps to the next shadow, 20 to the corner. The West Hall lies just beyond, promising access to the security hub she needs to breach. Her heart drums steadily as she reaches the final portrait, a massive piece depicting what must be Valen's father, his expression as cold and remote as winter. The crack of breaking glass shatters the midnight quiet. Gunfire follows, sharp reports that echo off marble floors and wood-paneled walls. Shouts erupt from the direction of the library, male voices calling coordinates, positions, threats. Ilara's training kicks in, and she presses herself behind a thick marble column, making herself small, invisible. A dark figure vaults through the broken terrace doors, glass crunching under heavy boots. The assassin moves with lethal grace, weapon raised, seeking targets in the darkness. But Valen appears like a shadow coming to life, his movements precise and devastating. No hesitation, no wasted motion. Just 3 brutal strikes that send the intruder crashing to the floor. "Lock down the estate!" Valen commands, his voice carrying the kind of authority that brooks no argument. "Full sweep, all sectors. I want every inch covered." Guards materialize from various points, moving with military efficiency. Ilara holds her breath, certain she'll be discovered, perhaps even suspected of involvement. But Valen's head turns unerringly toward her hiding spot. In 3 long strides, he reaches her position. Instead of accusations or threats, his hand closes around her wrist, pulling her behind him as he moves through the chaos. His grip is firm but not cruel, positioning his body between her and any potential danger. The gesture seems instinctive rather than calculated, protection offered without thought. They enter the library, where broken glass glitters across Persian rugs and leather-bound books lie scattered like fallen soldiers. The intruder sprawls face down, unconscious or dead. Ilara can't tell which, but her attention catches on the man's gloved hand, splayed across marble tile. Something thin and metallic peeks from between the fingers, while guards sweep the room with practiced efficiency. She edges closer, using the confusion as cover. One smooth movement and the keycard slides into her palm, cool and promising. She tucks it into the pocket of her borrowed sleep pants just as Valen turns back to her. His dark eyes miss nothing. They track from her face to her slightly trembling hands, then to the teacup still sitting untouched on his desk. There's a slight flare of his nostrils, catching perhaps the chemical tang of the sedative she'd planned to use, but his expression remains unreadable, controlled as ever. "Secure the perimeter," he orders his men. "I want triple coverage on all approaches." His attention shifts to a senior guard. "Post someone outside her door until morning, no exceptions." Rain drums against the newly deployed steel shutters that now seal every window, turning the estate into a fortress. The downpour that had seemed so threatening earlier has softened to a sullen drizzle, barely audible through the reinforced barriers. Alara lets herself be guided back to her room, the stolen keycard a guilty weight against her thigh. Her mind races with new possibilities. The safe can wait until dawn, when she can offer to help clean up, move freely through the chaos left behind by the attack. The guard who takes up position outside her door gives her a respectful nod as she enters. Inside, she presses her back against the closed door, breathing deeply to steady her nerves. The night has brought more questions than answers. Why had Valen protected her instead of suspecting her? What had he read in those moments by his desk with the drugged tea? The attack itself seemed too convenient, too perfectly timed, or perhaps that was her naturally suspicious nature speaking. She moves to the window, running her fingers along the edges of the steel shutters. The security system's response had been impressive. Immediate, comprehensive, professional. Everything about this place speaks of layers upon layers of protection, yet someone had still managed to breach it. The stolen keycard might be her best chance now, but using it would have to wait. Dawn would bring opportunities amid the cleanup efforts. For now, she needs to play her role, the innocent guest, rattled by violence but grateful for protection. She sits on the edge of the bed, deliberately mussing her hair and clothes to suggest fear-induced restlessness. In the distance, she can hear guards moving with purpose, securing the estate room by room. Valen's voice occasionally carries through the walls, issuing crisp commands. The entire house thrums with controlled tension, like a living organism responding to threat. Alara lies back, staring at the ceiling, but seeing instead the way Valen had moved. Lethal grace and absolute control. He'd taken down an armed intruder with his bare hands. Yet those same hands had been careful when pulling her to safety. The contradiction adds another layer to the puzzle she's trying to solve. The stolen keycard presses against her leg, a constant reminder of her mission and the mounting complications. Morning feels very far away as she listens to the rain and the footsteps of guards, waiting for her chance to move amid the aftermath of violence. Dawn seeps through the steel shutters, turning rain into a fine coastal mist. The estate's kitchens buzz with subdued activity, but the atmosphere remains tense. Guards patrol with heightened vigilance, phones have been collected, and heavy chains. Secure every gate. The lockdown transforms the mansion into an elaborate trap, though Alara can't tell if she's the predator or prey. A guard appears at her door precisely at 7. Mr. Roth requests your presence for breakfast. The sunroom stretches vast and bright despite the dreary morning. Valen sits at a table dressed in crisp white linen, his posture perfect, every movement deliberate as he gestures to the chair across from him. Alara slides into the seat, noting how the space between them feels both too far and not far enough. I trust you slept well, considering the circumstances, he says, his voice carrying the same controlled calm as always. Steam rises from the coffee service between them, and the scent of freshly baked pastries does nothing to ease the knot in her stomach. The rules of the house, he continues, pouring coffee into her cup with precise movements, remain as stated. No wandering, no questions about business matters. However, his dark eyes lock onto hers. I'm adding one more. You will not leave my sight until we resolve the security breach. The coffee cup warms her suddenly cold fingers. She forces herself to take a sip, buying time to steady her voice. Is that really necessary? You were in the West Hall last night. It's not a question. Why? Alara sets down her cup, choosing her words carefully. I got lost. The house is large and the corridors all look similar in the dark. Indeed. He cuts into a perfectly poached egg, the tines of his fork scraping china. Just as I noticed the peculiar scent near my tea last evening. Chemical, sharp, like almonds perhaps. His gaze remains steady. Tea I chose not to drink. Her pulse hammers against her throat, but his expression shows no anger, no threat. Instead, he simply states, You will stay with me today so I can watch you tell the truth. The next hours pass in a blur of activity. Valen moves through the house, like a general inspecting his fortress, methodically questioning staff members about their movements during the attack. Alara trails in his wake, watching him test alarm panels and examine window frames while she secretly commits every detail to memory. The breach point shows expertise, he explains, as they inspect the library's broken window. The glass was cut precisely to avoid triggering the primary sensors. His fingers trace the edge of the remaining glass. Professional work. Throughout the day, he leads her down corridors she'd only glimpsed before, through rooms she'd mapped in her mind but never entered. The estate reveals itself as a maze of security checkpoints and camera blind spots, each one noted and filed away in her mental blueprint. Staff members scatter in their presence, heads bowed, answers clipped. Even the most senior guards defer to Valen with a mix of respect and carefully concealed fear. Yet he treats each person with the same cool courtesy, his questions direct but never cruel. As evening approaches, they return to the EE library. Books have been reshelved, furniture straightened, but glass still glitters across the floor like fallen stars. Without being asked, Alara kneels to help gather the larger pieces. "Careful," Valen warns, dropping to one knee beside her. Some shards are barely visible. They work in silence, the clink of glass against metal marking their progress. His presence beside her feels solid, unavoidable. When their hands brush, reaching for the same piece, neither pulls away immediately. The last shard falls into the collection bucket with a musical ping. Valen rises smoothly, offering her a hand up. His palm is warm and calloused, a warrior's hand playing at being a gentleman's. Standing at the broken window, now covered with temporary boarding, he speaks without looking at her. Until the threat is found, the estate remains a cage. His voice carries no apology, only fact. "You'll sleep in the blue suite tonight. It adjoins my rooms, with guards posted at both doors. We resume the search at first light." Alara nods, understanding the implicit message. She's as much a prisoner as she is a guest, though the gilt bars of her cage might be more comfortable than most. The stolen keycard weighs heavy in her pocket, unusable for now under his constant surveillance. Through the boards, she catches a glimpse of the setting sun painting the misty grounds in shades of amber and rose. Somewhere beyond those sealed gates, her sister lies in a hospital bed, medical bills mounting. The thought steadies her resolve, even as Valen's proximity makes every nerve ending spark with awareness. His hand settles at the small of her back, guiding her toward the door. The touch is light but proprietary, sending little shivers of electricity up her spine. She tells herself it's fear causing her reaction, not the way his cologne hints at sandalwood and winter nights, or how his presence makes her feel simultaneously threatened and protected. "Shall we?" he asks, though it's not really a question. Everything about him radiates absolute control over his domain, his people, and now her. But as they walk toward their adjoining rooms, she catches him watching her from the corner of his eye, his expression holding something that might be curiosity beneath the steel. Guard footsteps echo behind them, a reminder that neither of them will truly rest tonight. The estate holds its secrets close, and tomorrow will bring another day of careful observation. Predator and prey locked in their elegant dance, though the roles seem less certain with each passing hour. The grandfather clock in the hall strikes midnight, its deep chimes echoing through the estate. A guard wheels a narrow cot into the sitting room, positioning it carefully beneath tall windows that reflect nothing but darkness. The room connects directly to Valen's bedroom through heavy double doors, left partially open, a calculated arrangement that makes Alara's skin prickle with awareness. Valen himself stands nearby, watching as she perches on the cot's edge. In the lamplight, he notices the angry red scrape across her wrist, likely from gathering broken glass earlier. Without speaking, he retrieves a first aid kit from a desk drawer. "Your hand," he says, the words soft but leaving no room for refusal. Alara extends her arm, pulse jumping as his fingers circle her wrist. He cleans the scratch with precise clinical movements, but his touch remains gentle, almost tender. It's this unexpected care that makes her throat tight, more than any show of force could. "You're good at that," she murmurs, trying to mask her unease with conversation. "Necessity teaches many skills." He applies antiseptic with practiced efficiency. "Though I learned early that some lessons come at too high a price." The quiet intensity in his voice makes her look up. His face remains composed, but something darker moves behind his eyes. Old pain, carefully contained. "The elders in my family," he continues, smoothing a bandage over her skin, "believed control was best taught through loss. When I was 12, they traded me to cement an alliance, a month of lessons in powerlessness." His hand still on her wrist, but his touch stays gentle even as tension radiates through his frame. "I survived by making rules, boundaries, vows that would ensure I never became what they were. That's why you—" Alara's voice trails off, understanding dawning. "Why I don't take what isn't freely given." He releases her wrist and steps back, creating careful distance. Control kept me alive, but it also taught me its value. Everything in this house operates on consent and choice, even if the choices are limited. The weight of her hidden recorder and the stolen keycard seems to double. Her mission, previously justified by desperation, now feels like a betrayal of something sacred. She's not just trying to steal his security codes. She's attempting to violate the very principles that helped him survive. Time creeps past in tense silence. The house settles around them with soft creaks and whispers. At 2 a.m., a barely perceptible vibration from her tote bag breaks the quiet. Alara's heart rate spikes. "I need to use the bathroom," she says, forcing her voice to remain steady. Balin nods once, gesturing to the ensuite. She retrieves her bag as casually as possible and slips inside, turning on the tap to mask any sound. The burner phone's screen glows accusingly. She answers with trembling fingers. "Time's running out." The voice is mechanically distorted. "We need Roth's biometric by noon tomorrow. Drop point is the North Ferry Terminal, locker 23. Fail, and your sister's ward might experience some unfortunate equipment malfunctions." The line goes dead before she can respond. Alara presses her forehead against the cool mirror, breathing through waves of panic and guilt. Her sister Amy, already fragile, depending on machines to breathe. When she opens the bathroom door, Balin stands by the window. His broad frame is silhouetted against the glass, but she can clearly see the reflection of her phone's glow fading in the dark pane. Her stomach drops as he turns, his expression unreadable in the shadows. "You'll start telling the truth now." His voice is very quiet, almost gentle despite its firmness. He gestures to a pair of armchairs arranged near the cold fireplace. "Sit. The night is not over." Alara moves woodenly to the indicated chair, her legs feeling like lead. The distance between them seems both too vast and not nearly far enough. Balin remains standing, his presence filling the room with unspoken questions. The grandfather clock ticks steadily in the darkness, counting down moments until dawn. Outside, clouds part briefly to reveal a sliver of moon, casting pale light across the sitting room's expensive furnishings. The contrast between the luxury surrounding them and the raw conversation ahead feels surreal. Alara perches on the chair's edge, hands clasped tightly in her lap to hide their shaking. Her mission, her sister's safety, Valen's carefully constructed world of consent and control. Everything balances on the next few minutes like a house of cards in a storm. Valen watches her with that same, unreadable expression, patient as a predator, but with something else beneath the surface. Something that might be understanding or might be disappointment. The silence stretches between them, heavy with secrets about to break free. The estate creaks and sighs around them, its shadows holding countless hidden truths. Guard footsteps pass in the hallway, regular as a metronome. In the distance, waves crash against the cliffs, a reminder of the wild world beyond these walls. But here in this room, time seems suspended between one breath and the next, waiting for Alara to find words that might bridge the gulf between necessity and betrayal. She draws a shaky breath, acutely aware of Valen's steady gaze and the weight of choices pressing down like physical things. The truth hovers on her tongue, bitter as medicine, necessary as breathing. Beyond the windows, the night stretches dark and endless, promising no escape from this moment of reckoning. Alara's fingers twist in her lap as the truth spills out in jagged pieces. "I was hired to get your palm print. The plan was simple. Drug your tea, lift the print while you were out." Her voice cracks. But then the attack happened, and everything changed. Valen's expression hardens to ice, but he remains perfectly still. "Continue." "They're blackmailing me. My sister Amy, she's in the hospital. They threatened to tamper with her equipment if I don't deliver by noon today at the ferry docks." The words tumble faster now, desperate. "I didn't want to, but they knew exactly which machines keep her alive." The silence that follows feels endless. Valen's jaw works slightly, the only sign of emotion on his otherwise marble features. When he finally speaks, his voice is controlled winter. "You came into my home, attempted to violate my person, and now you tell me this because you were caught." "Yes." Alara doesn't try to soften it. To her surprise, instead of calling his guards, Valen leans forward. "I have a counter-proposal. You will work with me. We feed them garbage data, a corrupted print that appears genuine but fails after one use. In exchange, I eliminate your sister's medical debt and place her under my protection. Permanently." Alara's breath catches. "Why would you help me?" "Because you had the courage to tell the truth, even knowing it could destroy you." His eyes lock with hers. And because I recognize desperation when I see it. He reaches for his phone, pressing a single button. Within minutes, a sharp-featured man in tactical gear enters the room. Marcus, report on the attacker's equipment. Eastern European manufacturer boss, targeting specs consistent with the Kovash family's recent operations. Valen nods as if confirming a theory. We're going to give them what they want, with modifications. He outlines the plan, a specially engineered biometric patch designed to degrade after initial use, rendering any stolen data useless. Alara's hands shake as she types the message on her burner phone. Got the palm. Noon pickup confirmed. Your sister's ward number, Valen demands quietly. She tells him, watching as he makes another call. I want a security detail on Amy Quinn in Memorial Hospital, room 412. Full protective detail, medical staff background checks, and equipment monitoring, immediate effect. The sky begins to lighten outside as preparations continue. Valen's team moves with practiced efficiency, setting up surveillance points around the ferry terminal. They outfit Alara with a wire so delicate it feels like a second skin. Stay natural, Marcus instructs as he tests the audio. Act nervous. It'll be expected given the circumstances. Valen hasn't left her side, his presence both reassuring and intensely intimidating. He reviews building schematics, marking exits and potential sniper positions with precise movements. The handoff team will maintain distance, he explains. We need to see who's pulling the strings. The person at the locker is likely just a courier. Dawn breaks over the water as they load into an unmarked black SUV. Alara clutches the decoy patch, its innocent appearance belying its sabotaged nature. Valen slides in beside her, close enough that she feels the heat radiating from his body. Sir, one of his men asks, rules of engagement? Valen's response is measured, but carries absolute authority. No casualties unless necessary. His gaze sweeps the assembled team. We're after information, not bodies. The SUV pulls away from the estate as golden light spills across the bay. Alara watches the iron gates recede in the side mirror, struck by how different everything looks in morning light. The recorder and keycard she'd stolen feel like lead weights in her bag, remnants of a plan that seems naive now in the face of Valen's calculated response. His hand rests on the seat between them, close but not touching. She studies his profile as he watches the road, trying to reconcile this dangerous, controlled man with someone who would protect her sister instead of punishing them both. The wire against her skin reminds her of the complexity of their situation. She's both asset and liability, partner and potential threat. Yet something in how Valen positions himself between her and the door suggests protection rather than imprisonment. Traffic increases as they approach the city, other cars filling the coastal highway. Alara forces herself to breathe slowly, remembering Marcus's advice about natural nervousness. The decoy patch seems to burn in her pocket, a small piece of technology that could either save or doom her sister. Valen's phone buzzes with updates from his surveillance team. Position secured, backup units in place, hospital detail confirmed. Each message builds a web of protection and strategy around what had started as her desperate solo mission. The sun climbs higher, burning away the last traces of night fog. Alara watches boats bob in the harbor as they near the ferry terminal, their innocent morning routines a stark contrast to the tension in the SUV. She thinks of Amy in her hospital bed, now surrounded by invisible guardians, and prays she's made the right choice in trusting Valen. His voice breaks into her thoughts, low enough for only her to hear. Remember, you're not alone in this anymore. The words carry weight beyond their simple meaning, an echo of his earlier revelation about control and choice. The SUV slows as they approach their destination. Through the windshield, Alara can see the ferry terminal's weathered buildings. Unaware, they're now the center of an invisible operation. Valen's last order about avoiding casualties hangs in the air, a reminder that even in this dangerous game, he maintains strict boundaries. The salt-laden breeze whips Alara's hair as she stands beneath the towering crane, its metal skeleton throwing broken shadows across the ferry terminal's concrete. Rust flakes pepper the ground like copper confetti. Her fingers clench around the decoy patch, the morning sun beating against her neck. Through her earpiece, Valen's steady breathing provides an anchor. He's positioned himself behind a stack of shipping containers, close enough to intervene but far enough to avoid detection. His team maintains an invisible perimeter, their presence marked only by occasional radio static. Target approaching from the east, Marcus's voice crackles in her ear. Gray coat, military boots. Alara forces herself to maintain a nervous posture. Not difficult given the circumstances. The courier appears exactly as described, unremarkable except for the precise way he moves like someone counting steps. Keep your hands visible, Valen instructs through the wire. Let him make first contact. The courier's boots scrape against concrete as he approaches. His face remains partially hidden beneath a pulled-down baseball cap, but his eyes scan the area with professional efficiency. You have it. His voice is flat, mechanical. Alara nods, extending the decoy patch. Her hand trembles slightly, a genuine reaction that sells the performance. The courier snatches it, fingers moving with practiced speed as he verifies its appearance. A manila envelope hits the ground at her feet, skidding slightly in the morning breeze. Pilgrim, he whispers, the word barely audible above the harbor noise. Then he turns, walking away with the measured pace of someone trying not to hurry. The name hits Alara like a physical blow. Her mother's nickname, known only to family, wrapped in bedtime stories and secret games. She forces herself to bend down, collect the envelope, maintain the act while her mind races. Target moving northwest, Marcus reports. 2-man team following at distance. Valen's voice comes through clear and sharp. Maintain surveillance, no engagement unless threatened. Alara stays rooted in place, counting her breaths until Valen appears at her elbow. His presence radiates controlled power as he guides her toward their waiting vehicle. The SUV's interior feels like a sanctuary after the exposed docks. Through the tinted windows, she watches Valen's men disperse in careful patterns, following the courier's trail while maintaining their cover. Team 2 reporting, the radio crackles. Target entered warehouse at Pier 47, multiple voices detected inside. They listen as the surveillance feed captures fragments of conversation. Verification process started. Ledger access requires specific keys. Pilgrim's system. Each word builds a picture that makes Alara's blood run cold. The palm print wasn't the true target. It was a test, a piece of a larger puzzle. The real prize is apparently a digital ledger encrypted with a system her mother designed. Full audio capture, Valen orders, his face impossible to read. I want every word, more voices filter through. Family records, every route. Could burn them all. Only Pilgrim's heir has the full key. Alara's fingers dig into her thighs as the implications sink in. Her mother, who taught her pattern games disguised as play, who sang encrypted lullabies as bedtime songs, she'd built something dangerous enough to make the underworld hunt for it. Valen signals the driver, and they pull away from the docks. The SUV's powerful engine hums as they merge into late morning traffic, putting distance between them and the warehouse full of secrets. The lullaby, Valen says suddenly, breaking the tense silence. The one your mother sang. Recite it. Alara's throat tightens, but she forces out the familiar words, the melody that's lived in her memory since childhood. As she sings, Valen's expression shifts subtly, recognition flickering in his eyes. The pattern? He murmurs. It matches a cipher structure I've encountered before. Professional work, nearly unbreakable without the right key sequence. The city slides past their windows as they head back toward the estate. Alara watches buildings give way to coastline, her mind churning with questions. How deep was her mother's involvement? What secrets lie hidden in the songs and games of her childhood? My secure lab, Valen says, checking his phone as messages from his surveillance team continue to arrive. After sundown, we'll need to analyze this properly. The SUV's tires thrum against pavement, carrying them closer to answers neither of them might be ready to face. Alara catches glimpses of the ocean between buildings, its surface deceptively calm despite the currents running beneath. Marcus's voice comes through again. Sir, warehouse team is discussing transport plans. Should we maintain surveillance? Affirmative, Valen responds. Full coverage, rotating teams. I want to know every move they make. Alara closes her eyes, letting the vehicle's motion rock her as the morning's events settle into place. The decoy patch, the courier's whispered word, the revelation about her mother's secret work. Each piece fits into a puzzle larger than her original desperate plan to save her sister. The estate's gates appear ahead, iron and stone promising security while hiding their own dangers. As they pass through, Alara realizes how completely her world has shifted since she first approached these same gates in the rain. What started as a simple theft has evolved into something far more complex, with her mother's legacy at its heart. Guards snap to attention as their SUV rolls to a stop in the circular drive. Valen checks his watch. Hours yet until sunset, until they can begin unraveling the cipher hidden in a child's lullaby. His hand brushes her arm briefly as they exit the vehicle, a gesture that might be reassurance or restraint or both. The lab's blue-white glow bathes Alara's face as she watches Valen's fingers move across 3 keyboards. Bank after bank of monitors fills the underground space, each screen reflecting complicated streams of data. The isolation system hums, a contained digital fortress designed to protect the main network from any hidden traps in the ledger's code. "Try it again," Valen says, his voice steady despite hours of failed attempts. "The exact rhythm your mother used." Alara closes her eyes, letting muscle memory guide her fingers against the steel table. Tap, tap, pause, tap, 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 pause. The lullaby's pattern flows through her, as familiar as breathing. On the main screen, lines of encrypted text respond, shifting and realigning before freezing again. "There!" Valen points to a new message that's appeared, hidden in the base code. Alara leans forward, reading, "Two must choose to dance together. Blood calls to blood, but choice makes the key complete." "It needs 2 willing participants," Valen translates, his jaw tightening. "Pilgrim's heir, you, and someone you choose to trust with full access, a failsafe against forced compliance." "My mother built this," Alara whispers, pieces clicking into place. "She made sure no one could just take it." Valen's fingers fly across the keyboards again, initiating deeper traces on the attack's origin. Data streams across auxiliary monitors, painting a picture of money movement and encrypted communications. His expression darkens as patterns emerge. "These signatures," he says, highlighting a sequence, "they're family methods, private protocols." "Your own people?" Alara asks. "Not current organization, legacy players." He pulls up an image, a handsome man with familiar eyes, but none of Valen's restraint. "Dorian Vale, my half-brother, exiled 5 years ago for selling roots to foreign interests." Alara studies the photo, noting the calculated charm in Dorian's smile. "He wants the ledger to sell everything it contains. City by city, route by route, name by name." Valen's voice carries cold certainty. "He's been courting buyers from 3 continents." A chill runs through Alara as she processes the implications. The blackmailers, they were never going to let me go after one job, were they? They need me alive and under control to access the ledger. "No." Valen's hand rests briefly on her shoulder. "You'd have become a permanent asset, leveraged through your sister until they had everything they wanted." New data flashes across the screens. Intercepted communications suggesting a church-neutral gathering space has been secured, traditional underworld protocol for delicate negotiations. "He's requesting parley," Valen notes. "Midnight, sacred ground rules, no weapons inside, limited security details." "It's a trap," Alara says immediately. "Of course. But it's also an opportunity to identify his local support. Someone's feeding him internal information about the estate's operations." Valen initiates a secure channel to his command center upstairs. Within minutes, his core team assembles in the lab. Maps appear on the tactical displays as they plan positions and fallback points around the church location. "Minimal presence inside," Valen instructs. "Standard honor guard only. We maintain the appearance of good faith while our real strength stays hidden in the perimeter." "And me?" Alara asks, though she suspects the answer. "You remain here, secure in the estate. If this is meant to flush you out, we don't give them the opportunity." The distant tolling of church bells filters down through layers of concrete and steel, marking the hour. Time ticking toward midnight's meet. "Sir," a quiet voice cuts through the planning session. Silas Crane steps forward, his usual severe expression softened by concern. "Let me coordinate estate security while you're gone. I know every angle, every weakness. Nothing will reach the house." Valen studies his lieutenant for a long moment before nodding. "Full lockdown protocols. No one in or out without direct confirmation from me." Alara watches the exchange, noting the complete trust Valen places in Silas. The rest of the team disperses to prepare, leaving them alone in the humming lab. "Your mother built more than encryption," Valen says, shutting down non-essential systems. "She created a choice, power freely given instead of taken." "She never told me what she was protecting," Alara replies. just taught me games that weren't really games. She gave you the key but let you choose when to use it. He turns to face her fully. And who to trust with the other half. The implications hang in the air between them. Trust, choice, power given, not taken. The ledger's dual key system suddenly feels less like security and more like legacy, her mother's final lesson about the nature of true partnership. Valen checks his watch as the last bells fade. 3 hours until midnight. Time to prepare for whatever game Dorian thinks he's playing. Above them, the estate hums with activity as security protocols engage. Steel shutters seal windows, patrol patterns shift, and surveillance systems move to high alert. Silas's voice carries through the comm system, directing the lockdown with practiced efficiency. Alara's fingers find the lullaby rhythm again, tapping it against her leg, the pattern that's both key and choice, protection and possibility. Her mother's gift, waiting for the right moment and the right partner to unlock its full potential. Frost creeps across the greenhouse glass like delicate spiderwebs, turning the midnight garden into a crystalline maze. Alara paces between rows of orchids and climbing vines, her footsteps echoing on the stone path. The estate's usual steady hum feels wrong tonight, slightly off-key, like a piano missing a single string. Her fingers trace the cool metal of a planter. "Get it together," she whispers, but anxiety coils tighter in her chest. Valen's absence leaves a void that the shadows seem eager to fill. The greenhouse door whispers open. "Can't sleep?" Silas emerges from the darkness, his usual stern expression softened with understanding. The first night of lockdown is always the hardest. "Just needed to move," Alara says, noting how he positions himself between her and the exit. "Clear my head." "You've handled yourself well, considering." He steps closer, moonlight catching the silver at his temples. "Most would have broken under the pressure. But you're special, aren't you?" Warning bells ring in Alara's mind, but before she can retreat, metal glints in his hand. The knife catches starlight through the glass ceiling. "Don't," he says softly. "No alarms, no screaming. We're going to walk very calmly to the service entrance." "Silas!" The loyal lieutenant. His lip curls. "Do you know how long I've watched Valen play at being king? All that power in his hands, and he's too pure to use it properly." The knife doesn't waver. Dorian understands what real leadership requires. "Sometimes you have to get your hands dirty." He produces zip ties, motioning for her wrists. When she hesitates, the blade presses against her ribs. "Now!" The plastic bites into her skin as he cinches them tight. Silas guides her through the shadows of the greenhouse, past sleeping flowers and trickling fountains. "A decade I've served him," Silas continues, bitterness threading his words, watching him reject everything a man in his position deserves: power, pleasure, proper respect. He shoves her through a hidden service door. A virgin king who won't even touch a woman? Pathetic. A black van idles in the narrow alley, its engine a low purr. Silas opens the side door and pushes her inside. The interior smells of leather and gun oil. "Dorian's different," he says, securing her to a metal ring bolted to the floor. He's not afraid to take what he wants, to reward those who help him take it. The van lurches into motion, tires crunching on gravel. Through the tinted windows, Alara watches the estate's lights recede into darkness. Across town, beneath soaring Gothic arches, the midnight meeting dissolves into chaos. Valen's phone lights up with a live video feed. Alara bound in the van, fear bright in her eyes. His careful control splinters. The church erupts in shouts and gunfire as the truce shatters. Valen moves with lethal precision through the melee, his focus razor sharp. 2 of his most trusted men fall in beside him as they fight their way to the exit. "The van!" he commands, voice like ice. "Track it!" His team catches a partial plate number as the vehicle disappears into the maze of city streets. Valen's driver has their armored SUV waiting, engine running. Back at the estate, the evidence of betrayal is clear. Security cameras manually disabled. Guard rotations altered. Access codes changed. Every breach bears Silas's signature, the work of a man who knew the fortress from the inside out. Valen stands in the greenhouse where it happened, frost melting beneath his fingers on the glass. A decade of trust turned to ash. But vengeance can wait. Alara cannot. He finds Silas's quarters stripped bare, except for a single flash drive on the desk. A message or a trap. Either way, it's a lead to follow. "Sir," one of his men reports, Traffic cameras picked up the van heading east, 3 possible routes based on timing. Plot them all, Valen's voice carries absolute authority. Every camera, every intersection. Find her. The estate hums with renewed purpose as teams mobilize. Valen chooses pursuit over retribution. The path to Alara matters more than punishment for traitors. Justice can come later. Miles away, in a windowless cargo room lit by a single harsh bulb, Alara tests her bonds. The zip ties bite deeper with each attempt. A gag muffles any sound she might make. The door opens, and familiar notes float through the air. A melody she knows in her bones, her mother's lullaby, twisted into something wrong by the man who hums it. Dorian steps into the light, handsome features, arranged in a pleasant smile that doesn't reach his eyes. He continues humming the tune, watching recognition dawn on her face. Your mother had quite a gift for encryption, he says when the melody ends. Hiding keys in children's songs. Brilliant, really. She understood that the best secrets are the ones we carry without knowing their weight. Alara goes still, understanding crashing over her. He knows. He knows exactly what she is, what her mother built into her memories with games and lullabies. Don't worry, Dorian's smile widens. We have all the time in the world to explore those lovely patterns in your head. After all, a key this precious deserves proper appreciation. The single bulb casts harsh shadows across his face as he pulls up a chair. The lullaby starts again, softer now, more menacing in its gentleness. Each note falls like frost on glass, turning Alara's childhood memories to ice. Dorian wheels in a sleek monitor on a cart, his movements unhurried and precise. The screen casts a blue glow across Alara's face as he connects cables with practiced ease. Such a clever system your mother designed, he says, pulling up a familiar grid pattern. Teaching you the keys through children's games, making you a living vault without even knowing it. He taps a rhythmic sequence, the same one her mother used in their after-dinner hand-clapping games. Her stomach turns to ice. Those innocent moments, all of them calculated, programmed into her muscle memory. Your sister's ward is quite vulnerable, you know. Dorian's voice remains conversational. Old wiring, outdated sprinklers. It would be tragic if an electrical fire started in the middle of the night. He shows her his phone screen. Live security feed of her sister's hospital room. Shall we begin? Alara's hands shake as he removes her restraints. The pattern interface glows, waiting. Each tap feels like betrayal, but her sister's sleeping face on the phone screen leaves no choice. Good girl, Dorian murmurs as her fingers dance across the screen, following the rhythm burned into her childhood. Just like that, the system responds, unfolding like origami. File structures appear, each labeled with dates and codes. Dorian's breath catches as the scope of the ledger becomes clear. Shipping routes, shell companies, offshore accounts, blackmail material spanning generations. This is better than I hoped, he says, already copying data. The whole city's underground, wrapped up in a bow, every family's secrets, every dirty deal. His eyes gleam. Do you know what buyers will pay for this? Across the city, Valen's SUV tears through empty streets. Blood seeps through his shirt where a knife caught him at the church, but he barely feels it. His knuckles are white on the steering wheel as he takes corners too fast, GPS tracking the last known position of the van. Sir, you need medical? One of his men starts. No. The word cuts, like steel. He forces his body forward on pure rage and focus, letting the pain sharpen his mind. They find the warehouse district empty, except for scattered guards. Valen moves like a ghost, neutralizing threats with brutal efficiency. Each punch, each strike carries the weight of betrayal. Silas's, possibly Alara's. The main doors splinter under concentrated force. Inside, screens glow in the darkness. Valen drops 2 more guards with precise violence, barely breaking stride. His blood leaves dark drops on concrete as he advances. He reaches the inner room just as Alara yanks a cable free from the terminal. But the screen still shows partial access. File structures exposed, data paths open. To his eyes, trained to see betrayal, it looks like willing collaboration. The terminal sparks and dies. Alara's final keystroke, the one that corrupted the export and scrambled the cache, goes unseen as smoke starts curling from a far corner. Dorian is already gone, taking what data he could grab. Valen cuts her bonds with a knife that shakes almost imperceptibly. His face is a mask of ice as he scans the room, cataloging the scene. her unbound hands on the keyboard, the orderly data display. No signs of force beyond the initial restraints. The sprinklers sputter to life as flames catch old wood and crawl up the walls. Valen grabs her arm and pulls her toward the exit, his grip professional rather than protective. The warmth she'd glimpsed in him is gone, replaced by careful distance. They emerge into pre-dawn darkness, air heavy with salt and smoke. Other teams secure the perimeter while Valen guides her to a waiting car. The space between them feels vast, despite the close quarters. He sits across from her rather than beside her, eyes forward, jaw set. No questions, no accusations. Just silence that fills the car like smoke. The gray hour before dawn stretches endless as they wind through empty streets, the warehouse fire fading to a dull glow behind them. Alara watches his profile, sees the dried blood on his shirt, the rigid set of his shoulders. She wants to explain about the corrupted export, the scrambled cash, how she played along only until she could sabotage Dorian's theft. But the words stick in her throat. The city slowly wakes around them. Delivery trucks rumble past, early commuters wait at bus stops. Coffee shops flip their signs to open. Normal life continuing while her world burns down. Valen makes a single call, voice clipped. Secure the sister. Full protection detail, effective immediately. He doesn't look at Alara as he speaks, doesn't acknowledge her small sound of relief. The car climbs back toward the estate as first light paints the clouds pink and gold. The beautiful sunrise feels like mockery, nature's reminder that time moves forward even when trust shatters and hearts freeze. Every mile adds another layer to the wall between them. Valen's careful control, once a shelter, now feels like a prison. His silence speaks of conclusions already drawn, judgment already passed. The estate appears ahead, its gates still bearing scars from the previous night's breach. Guards snap to attention as the car approaches. Everything looks the same, but nothing is. Dawn breaks fully as they pull into the garage. The new day arrives cold and clear, carrying the weight of consequences yet to unfold. The space between them has become a chasm, and Alara doesn't know if any truth can bridge it now. Early morning light filters through the estate's bulletproof windows, casting long shadows across marble floors. Without hesitation, Alara strides into Valen's war room, her footsteps echoing off steel-reinforced walls. Guards move to intercept but freeze at her determined expression. The scorched backup unit sits on his desk like a dark promise. Before anyone can stop her, she grabs it and brings it down hard against the floor. The crack of breaking electronics pierces the silence. "I won't be the knife in your ribs," she declares, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "Not now. Not ever." Valen rises from his chair, face unreadable. Blood has seeped through his makeshift bandage, a dark reminder of the church ambush. "The Ledger's core has requirements you don't understand," she continues, meeting his gaze. "It needs 2 willing participants, both present and choosing. Pilgrim, my mother, built it that way. 1 heir and 1 chosen keyholder, named at the moment of trust." She takes a breath, hands trembling slightly. "Last night, when I locked down the system, I named you in my head. But the sync couldn't complete because you weren't beside me. That's why Dorian only got fragments." Something shifts in Valen's expression, a crack in his icy facade. He dismisses his men with a sharp gesture, leaving them alone among screens and tactical maps. "Show me," he says quietly. Alara pulls up the partial index on a secure terminal. "See these access patterns? They're incomplete. The full core needs both keyholders present, both choosing freely. My mother built it as a failsafe against exactly what Dorian tried: forced compliance or solo betrayal." Valen moves closer, studying the data structure. His shoulder brushes hers as he leans in, the first real contact since the warehouse. He smells of smoke and copper and that underlying warmth that's uniquely him. "You could have told me this before," he says, "but the accusation has lost its edge. Would you have believed me after what it looked like at the warehouse?" He straightens, wincing as the movement pulls at his injury. Without comment, he strips off his ruined shirt and begins properly cleaning and binding his ribs. Alara watches the methodical process, noting old scars that map a history of violence. "We need to end this," he says finally. "Not just stop Dorian's play, but break the whole network. The Ledger gives us that power, if we use it right." He pulls up satellite imagery of the city. Red dots mark known safe houses and bolt holes. The partial index gives us his likely locations. He'll be moving the data, looking for buyers. "The cathedral," Alara says suddenly. "The old one on the hill. That's where he'll go for the final meet. Valen's eyes sharpen. Why there? It's where your family's power started, isn't it? Dorian's dramatic enough to want it to end there, too. He nods slowly. It would appeal to his sense of symmetry. His fingers fly across keyboards, coordinating resources. I can have teams in position by dusk, covert allies ready to move. But first, he turns to face her fully. Your sister. We move her to a secure facility now. Full protection detail. No loose ends for Dorian to grab. Relief floods through Alara. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. This ends tonight, one way or another. He studies her face. Are you certain about this? About trusting me with that level of access? I made my choice in that warehouse, even thinking you'd hate me for it. Something softens in his eyes. I never hated you. I hated that I might have been wrong about you. He moves to the weapons wall, selecting gear with precise care. We'll need to be in close proximity for the sync. That makes us vulnerable during the process. How long to open it fully? 3 minutes, maybe 4. Time enough to die if we're not careful. Teams begin arriving, filling the war room with controlled energy. Valen issues orders, positioning assets around the cathedral's perimeter. Support units will lock down escape routes while a core strike team accompanies them inside. Alara memorizes the tactical layouts, the timing, the fallback plans. Her waitress uniform feels like it belonged to another life. As afternoon fades toward evening, they do final checks on weapons and comms. Valen's hand brushes her arm. Last chance to walk away. She meets his gaze steadily. I don't walk away from promises. He nods once, then reaches for her hand. His palm presses against hers, warm and calloused. Then we do this together. We open it together, or not at all. The touch lingers, carrying the weight of trust freely given. Outside, engines rumble as armored vehicles idle in the gathering dusk. The cathedral waits on its hill, silent witness to what comes next. Together, Alara echoes, and feels the word settle into her bones like truth. They move as one toward the garage, where teams stand ready. The setting sun paints the sky in shades of fire and blood. Soon they'll climb that hill and face whatever waits in those ancient stones. But in this moment, palm to palm, they're already stronger than any force aligned against them. Stained glass crunches under their boots as they enter the cathedral. What's left of the rose window throws bloody patterns across the stone floor, painting everything in twilight and shadow. The air hangs thick with incense and gunpowder. Armed men line the nave like dark statues, weapons trained but holding position. Candle flames dance in the draft from broken windows, making the ancient saints in their niches seem to move. Always so dramatic, brother. Dorian emerges from behind a pillar, elegant in a tailored suit that probably costs more than Alara's yearly rent. Though I suppose I'm guilty of the same, choosing this place. Valen doesn't respond to the taunt. His focus is absolute, cataloging threats and angles with cold precision. Alara feels the subtle shift in his stance, the gathering of potential energy before a strike. Nothing to say? Dorian spreads his hands. No lectures about family loyalty? No grand speeches about honor? The first shot cracks like thunder in the sacred space. Valen moves like liquid violence, dropping the nearest gunman before the echo fades. Alara darts for the altar while chaos erupts. The terminal access point is exactly where their intel placed it, hidden beneath an ornate panel, worked with golden crosses. Her fingers shake as she connects the drive, but her voice stays steady as she begins humming her mother's lullaby. The pattern is muscle memory now. Tap, tap, pause, tap, like playing piano on the edge of the world. Gunfire punctuates each measure, along with the meaty sounds of close combat. She risks a glance up. Valen fights with terrible efficiency, each movement designed to end threats quickly. He's poetry written in violence, turning death into an art form. Blood darkens his shirt where someone got lucky. The terminal lights up, waiting for final authentication. Alara's fingers hover over the keys as she watches Valen work his way toward her, leaving broken bodies in his wake. Not dead. She notes his control even now, but thoroughly disabled. He reaches her side just as she completes the base sequence. Without hesitation, he places his hand over hers on the terminal. The contact sends electricity up her arm. The screen flares to life. Data cascades faster than she can track. Names, dates, accounts, routes. Every dirty secret and hidden deal laid bare. The entire criminal network exposed in clean lines of code. It's done, she breathes. Valen's hand tightens briefly on hers before he turns to face his brother. Dorian stands alone now, his men groaning on the floor around him. His perfect suit is stained with blood from a split lip. Your backup teams are already contained, Valen says quietly. Give me the remaining safe house locations, and this ends cleaner than you deserve. Dorian laughs, but there's an edge of desperation to it. You won't kill me. You're too pure for that, aren't you? The Virgin King on his moral throne. I don't need to kill you to end you. Valen's voice could freeze hell. But I will if you make me choose between your life and her safety. Something in his tone makes Dorian's face go slack. He looks between them, understanding dawning. Well, that's unexpected. The locations, Valen repeats. Dorian recites 4 addresses in a flat voice. Valen signals his teams through his earpiece, setting coordinated strikes in motion. Across the city, in the distance, sirens begin to wail. You'll never be father's true heir! Dorian spits as Valen's men secure him. You're too weak to hold power! Power isn't measured by how much pain you can cause, Valen says. It's measured by how much you can protect. The church bells begin to toll, marking the hour. Dawn light creeps through the broken windows, turning the blood-colored glass to pearl. Valen turns to Alara as his teams clear the scene. His face is bruised, a cut above his eye bleeding freely, but his eyes burn with intensity as they meet hers. I meant what I said before. I take nothing that isn't freely given. He pauses, choosing words carefully. If you choose this, choose me, you get all of it. The violence, the responsibility, the weight of protecting what's ours. But also everything I am, everything I have to give. Alara studies him in the strengthening light, this dangerous man who kills without hesitation but touches her like she's precious, who could take whatever he wants but asks instead. She steps into his space, close enough to feel the heat radiating from him. Instead of words, she answers with action, pressing her forehead to his in a gesture of absolute trust. His breath catches. They walk out together as the first true rays of sunlight spill over the horizon. The sky is pale with promise, the air sharp and clean after night's violence. Sirens Doppler past as emergency vehicles respond to various anonymous tips about criminal activity across the city. Valen helps her into the SUV with careful hands, mindful of bruises neither of them notice getting. His team works efficiently around them, securing scenes and gathering evidence that will keep Dorian and his conspirators locked away for decades. In the back seat, Alara finds her sister's latest medical update, waiting on a secure phone. She's been moved to a private facility with round-the-clock security, recovering well from her latest treatment. One less weapon for anyone to use against them. Valen slides in beside her, close enough that their shoulders touch. He's already coordinating with his lieutenants, ensuring every loose end is tied off, every threat neutralized. But his free hand finds hers, fingers intertwining with quiet possessiveness. The city scrolls past the bulletproof windows as they head toward whatever comes next. Alara watches the familiar streets transform in the morning light, knowing nothing will ever look quite the same again. Not after this night. Not after him. His thumb traces absent patterns on her wrist as he works, the touch both claiming and asking. She leans into his shoulder in silent answer. They have plans to make, empires to rebuild, wounds to heal. But for now, this is enough. The quiet in the eye of the storm, and the certainty that neither of them faces it alone. The morning sun spills gold across the estate's limestone walls as their convoy returns. Salt air mingles with the metallic tang of blood and gunpowder that clings to their clothes. In the grand foyer, medical teams wait with supplies laid out on pristine white cloths. Let them check you first, Valen says, his voice rough from the night's exertion. Alara shakes her head. Your ribs need attention more than my scrapes. He allows the compromise of parallel treatment. A medic wraps Alara's wrists where the restraints bit deep, while another team carefully cuts away Valen's shirt to assess the damage to his torso. Purple-black bruising spreads across his left side, but nothing's broken, just badly bruised. In his office, multiple screens show the coordinated takedown still in progress. Encrypted copies of the ledger transmit to secure locations, while a separate team methodically burns the old network. Valen watches the data streams with clinical focus, even as a medic applies butterfly bandages to the cut above his eye. Your sister's medical debt is being cleared now, he tells Alara, turning one screen to show her the transactions in progress. I'm having the entire ward renovated and upgraded. Private security is already in place, hand-picked teams, rotating shifts, comprehensive background checks. Alara's throat tightens as she watches years of crushing debt vanish in neat rows of zeros. "Thank you," she whispers. "Don't thank me. This should have been done immediately." His jaw clenches. "I should have seen through Silas's act sooner." "We both missed it," she reminds him. "What matters is where we go from here." The activity gradually settles as reports confirm the network's dismantling. Valen dismisses the medical teams and security briefings until they're alone in his office. The morning light throws their shadows long across the floor as he turns to face her. "Will you stay?" he asks simply. No demands, no presumption, just an open question hung between them. Alara answers by retrieving the ledger's final shard, a dead man switch requiring dual authentication. She places it on his desk and extends her hand, palm up. Together, something softens in his eyes as he places his palm against hers. They sync the final lock simultaneously, sealing the ledger in a way that requires both their willing participation to ever access again. "The world will always fear me," he says quietly. "I can't change that. But you will always be safe with me. Everything I am, everything I control, exists to protect what matters." She traces the edge of the bandage on his ribs. "I don't want you harmless. I want you human. Let me be the heartbeat that reminds you why we fight, why we protect instead of just destroy." He catches her hand and presses it flat against his chest, letting her feel his pulse steady and strong beneath her fingers. The gesture says more than words could. They move through the day in quiet tandem. Valen coordinates with his teams, restructuring security protocols and installing new safeguards. Alara helps sort intelligence, her pattern recognition skills proving invaluable in mapping the remnants of Dorian's influence. By evening, the immediate fires are contained. They stand together on the terrace as the sun sinks toward the horizon. The sea breeze carries away the last traces of gunpowder and violence, replacing them with salt and cypress. "I'd like to visit Sarah tomorrow," Alara says, thinking of her sister. "Bring flowers, meet the new security detail properly." Valen nods. "The doctors say she's responding well to the new treatment protocol. I've arranged for the best specialist to consult. Will you come with me?" "If you want me there." She slides her hand into his. "I do." They begin planning the next day in small, deliberate steps. Breakfast together in the sunroom. Physical therapy exercises for his ribs. The visit to Sarah's private room with an armload of her favorite sunflowers. Each mundane detail feels like a victory. Proof that life continues past violence into something worth protecting. The estate no longer feels like a fortress or a cage. The high walls and security systems remain, but they've transformed from barriers into shields. This is what safety feels like, Alara realizes. Not the absence of danger, but the presence of protection freely given and received. As twilight deepens to true evening, they review the day's reports one final time. Everything proceeds according to plan. Dorian's network dismantled, their allies secured, their enemies contained. Tomorrow will bring new challenges, but they'll face them together. The physical therapist arrives at 9, Valen reminds her, wincing slightly as he shifts in his chair. "And I'll make sure you actually do the exercises instead of just intimidating the poor woman," Alara teases. A ghost of a smile touches his mouth. "I don't intimidate you anymore." "You never did." "Not really." She reaches across the desk to straighten his collar. "I saw the man behind the monster from that first night." His hand catches hers, thumb brushing over her pulse point. The touch is possessive but gentle. Everything about him is gentler with her, even as the rest of the world sees only the ruthless exterior. The cliff winds whisper through the open terrace doors, carrying the rhythm of waves below. Soon they'll retire to their rooms, sleep deep and dreamless after the long night and longer day. Tomorrow will dawn clear and bright, their first morning, where the force of his nature bows to devotion rather than destruction. For now, they sit in comfortable silence as stars emerge above the sea. The estate settles around them, security teams changing shifts with quiet efficiency. Everything is different, yet somehow exactly as it should be. Two people who chose each other, chose trust over fear, partnership over power. Home, Alara thinks. Not because of the walls or the wealth, but because of the man beside her who deals in death but touches her like she's precious. Who could take anything he wants but asks instead. Who gives her not just protection, but partnership, not just safety, but belonging.